we have moved to the part of the practice of Hopeology where we're actually beginning to share this hope that we have with other people. And that is so exciting because that's an intricate part of the practice of Hopeology. Now we're moving out from ourselves and we have hope for our families. We have hope for the communities that we're living in and hope for the nation and world. So it begins with a very personal one-on-one interaction that we call a hope chat. And in order to have a successful hope chat, there are 7 steps that we're going to go over, and we're going to actually spend a little time talking about each one so that we can get a great understanding of what it means to have a hope chat. So let's get started here. Hope chats, and I'll just mention the 7 steps, and then we'll go into a little bit more information about them, and then we'll go into detail over each step of having a successful hope chat. Hope chats, 7 steps. Number 1, identify. Number 2, prepare. Number 3, go. Number 4, listen. Number 5, encourage. Number 6, empower. And number 7, wrap up. Hope chats. Hope chats are an excellent way of both giving and receiving hope because hope flows both ways. And we're finding that hope chats are really making a difference in people's lives. It is simply letting someone know you care, and you cannot give hope without receiving more hope. I have experienced this on many occasions. As I give the gift of hope, more hope always comes back to me. One of the things that we'll see about the hope chat is that it does flow both ways. You cannot give hope without receiving more hope in return, because it's amazing to see when that connection is really made from the heart, how things begin to change in that person's life. And as it changes in other people's lives, it changes in our lives too. It helps us to become more hopeful as we see hope flowing to other people. Now, let's talk about having a successful hope chat and the steps that it takes in detail. It's easy to have a successful hope chat if you follow these 7 steps. Number 1, identify someone who needs hope. Now, let's just stop right here. When we're talking about identifying someone who needs hope, the first place we start, yes, is in the mirror, okay? And we want to make sure that we are practicing through the practice of Hopeology how to think hope, how to speak hope, how to imagine hope, and the hope breaks and all the things that it takes for us to be hopeful. And so once we understand that, okay, I am hopeful, I am full of hope, then we look around. And whenever we identify someone who needs hope, we all need hope from time to time. It's not always the crisis situation of the homeless person on the street or the single parent who is experiencing problems or the drug addict, but it's your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your friend, your neighbor, your cousin. It's those that are right around you who may just be having a tough time, maybe even a tough day. So when we identify someone who needs hope, that's one of the things I wanted to point out, is that make sure that you start in the family, you start in your inner circle, and it may just be someone is having a hard time that particular day, or maybe they're working on a project and they run into some type of challenge, or maybe a challenge in a relationship, or whatever it may be. But when we identify someone who needs hope, I always say, start at home, start closer. Make sure it's your inner circle, and then you can begin to go out. And number 2, prepare yourself for the conversation. Turn on your belief that things can get better and put on your unconditional love. So the preparation is something that we need to understand, that is so very important, to be prepared. Now, I also know that sometimes hope chats happen not because we've identified someone, but maybe someone has come to us. So it's very important that we stay prepared, okay? So we prepare ourselves, to be those that can have these hope chats with people whenever they're needed, however they are identified, whether we identify them or they identify us. And this is so very important, is number 1, your belief that things can get better. You cannot have a successful hope chat and you don't have faith, or you're somehow thinking, well, they'll never change, or this situation is so hopeless, or this person is, or whatever. So you have to have a belief that things can get better. And that's where the saying that God gave to me, as long as there's breath in your body, there is hope, comes in. And it has helped me over the years whenever I dealt with the women in Mothers in Crisis, and those who were experiencing the problems because of drugs and alcohol addiction. And sometimes it seemed hopeless. It really did, the situation, and it seemed like it just kept going around in circles. But whenever I remembered, as long as there's breath in their bodies, there's hope, it helped me to have the belief that things can get better. So whatever you need to do, that's why, we have our language of hope, and we have all the things that we do in order to stay hopeful, so that we can believe for that other person. And then the other part of the preparation of turning on unconditional love. Unconditional love. So if you go from the place, and remember our foundation is faith, hope, and love. So when you go from that place of love, then it's not about judging. So we're not, here to bring about any type of shame or judgment or criticism, but we're here to have a hope chat. So that's a different experience. So you have to put on your unconditional love. Let's look at number 3. Go to the person you've identified, look him or her in the eye, and say something like, I care about you and wanted to check in to see how things are going. Okay? So this step is so very, very crucial to a successful hope chat. Because when you go to that person, it's always better, if you can, to go in person. It's always better if you can have that one-on-one contact, or that eye contact with someone else. Then you could see, and you can also be privy to the nonverbal communication that is lost via the text and telephone and other methods. Although telephone is better if you cannot go in person, because at least you can hear the voice and the tone of voice. And not only that, they can hear your voice, and your voice should be at that place where, when you're, just very kind and loving. And just as we talked about, belief that things can get better, all of that can be heard in your voice, whether you're in person or whether you're on the telephone. But maybe it is even a text, because I've had hope chats through text, and you can do that. But it takes a little bit more. Maybe you have to use some emojis and, and make sure that the understanding is clear of what you say, because a text, it takes out some of those nuances that we have when it comes to communicating with one another. But this part about going to the person that you've identified, look him or her in the eye and say something like, now this is the important part, I care about you and wanted to check in with you to see how things are going. So the first thing you're putting out there is, I care. I care about you. And whether you say it your whole communication style should be one of care. So you may use the words, I care, something like. So these are not verbatim, but something like the way of communicating with the person that I care, that I'm not just being nosy. I'm not just trying to get in your business, and I'm certainly not going to gossip about what's going on, but I care about you, and I just wanted to check in with you to see how things are going. So that's very, very important. Now, as we move on to step number 4, as the person shares, listen with a hope face. Now, hope face, some of you all might say, well, what is a hope face? Well, a hope face is open and warm, and it is created when you look at someone and really see and connect with him or her. It is kind, joyful, and non-judgmental. So your face tells the whole story. So we have the hope face, and this hope face is something that when we first started talking about it as a team in Mothers in Crisis, we actually did exercises where we looked at one another, where we were assigned to look in the mirror to determine, first of all, what is your resting face? We all have a resting face. Sometimes we don't realize that our resting face may make us look like we are angry or, or worried, because usually our face is reflecting what's going on in our mind, our thoughts. So hopefully, as we are learning how to think hope, the thoughts that are flowing are more hopeful. Okay, but just understanding that your resting face is your face that people are going to see, and it is telling a story. It is projecting an emotion. So we begin to learn how to put on the hope face so it can become natural and a part of our everyday life. It needs to be authentic, but it needs to exude hope. And I believe it will, because you are a hopeful person now. You know how to become more hopeful yourself. And listen, it's not just like some people say, oh, a hope face, you just smile. No. It has to be appropriate. So if someone is telling you a story that is really traumatic or difficult to even listen to, have the appropriate affect so that they know that you are listening. Remember, number 4 says, as the person shares, listen with a hope face. So we've talked about the hope face, but now let's talk about listening. Listening to understand. Listening is deeper than hearing. You can hear somebody talking, but you may be on your cell phone, or you may be looking around, or you may be checking your watch, and you can hear them because you have ears, okay? You can hear what they're saying, but listening requires focus. So as you're focusing in on what the person is saying, and you have your hope face, your resting hope face, and then that way they know that there is a hope connection that is taking place, because you're connecting with the heart and you are interested in what they're saying. So you're listening. Sometimes we're itching to tell them what they need to do and give them the solution. But this part is so critical, because we have to listen in order to get an understanding of what's really happening with that person. And listening is an intricate part of a hope chat. Now let's move on to number 5. After the person finishes sharing, encourage him or her by saying something like, I can understand why you might see things that way. Then ask, deep down, what do you want most? So this part lets the person know that you're having a hope chat with that you understand. So as you listen to understand, then you may even say it. I can understand how you may feel that way. Okay? So at least you're making a connection. They may say something that, okay, you don't necessarily agree with, but try to understand how they can feel a certain way. And whenever you have empathy, empathy really helps you to feel what the other person is feeling. But then we also want to make sure we have compassion, because compassion is the action part where you know that now you are going to try and help them to do something about it. So it takes all of those components whenever the person finishes sharing, and you can say something like, I understand how you may feel that way. But then don't forget this question. Don't forget this question, because this question is the intricate part of what's known as reality therapy. And that is to ask them deep down, what do you really want? What do you want? When I share this question, I always share a story about whenever I used to work with women who were addicted to drugs and alcohol. And there was a young lady by the name of Barbara who I was assigned to go and help to get into treatment. She was pregnant and she was abusing drugs. I believe it was crack cocaine. And she also had 2 other children who had been taken from her and given to their father for custody. And I was given the task as intervention specialist to go and help to get her into treatment. And as I went to Barbara's house, and she came outside, and she was very pregnant, so she was showing. And I asked her, Barbara, what is it that you want? What do you want? Now, I knew what she needed. She needed to get into treatment so that, she could stop using and that baby could have a chance to be born healthy. I knew that. So many times we know what a person needs, or we believe we do, but what do they want? So I asked her that question. I said, what do you want, Barbara? She said, I want to see my other kids. I haven't seen them in months. And so I said to her, we can help you to see your other children. And then number 6, after listening to the person's answers, empower him or her by saying something like, I have an idea of what you can do. May I share it with you? So this empowerment piece is so important. So once they share what they really want, then ask for permission to share a suggestion or an idea or some type of solution. And usually they'll be willing to listen at that time, because now they see, you have that heart connection going on, and they see that you're really listening and you care, and you've heard what they really want. And so now they'll be waiting for the suggestion. So you ask for permission, and then you tell them whatever it may be. It may be, well, may I pray with you right now? Or I have a resource that I can give you, or I will go with you to a doctor's appointment, or whatever it may be. You share that information to empower them at that time, to give them knowledge of some type of resource, to give them hope, because now hope is what is needed. Hope and help. You can't fix it for them. You may not be able to fix it for them, but at least you can give them hope and point them in the right direction. And then number 7, wrap up by saying something like, just know that I'm here for you, and I believe that things are going to get better. Just know that I'm here for you. Sometimes people just need to know that they're not in it by themselves. They just need to know that someone else is willing to help them or just be there with them in this journey called life. The exercise that I would like to encourage you to do is to have a hope chat and then share your experience. And when I say have a hope chat, I'm not just saying go and have a conversation with someone and just bring them hope just based upon, what you normally do, or, what comes naturally. But utilize the 7 steps and see yourself going through the 7 steps. So maybe you can start with a friend and make sure you go through all of the 7 steps. That's what makes it uniquely a hope chat. And when you go through the 7 steps and you do it this way, then you'll see that there will be success and the person will be filled with hope. And guess what? So will you. Have a wonderful hope chat, and we're going to continue to move forward, making those hope connections.